What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and if you're like me, your party has memorized the monster manual pretty much indefinitely. And also, you might be finding if you have a high level game, which, I tend to end up getting there. I do like to run long running games that start off at a low level, but that continue in my attempts always to get a game that goes all the way to level 20. So I do spend a lot of time in post CR10 games. And I do find that, and I've said this before on the channel, that I think Wizards of the Coast didn't do a great job, for 5e anyway, of balancing past level 10. So I said, what are some good resources that allow me to do that? And while the name may seem intimidating, I promise you that the quality and the products and the monsters contained within are better designed and well balanced for things of level 10 and above, and even provide you a little insight on how best to use them. And that is the Total Party Kill Bestiary, however you want to call it, Volume 1 from my good friends at 2C Gaming. I will tell you up front, this video is sponsored by 2C Gaming, but we are going to go ahead and take a look at this. This is available right now, again, in the hardcover that you can see, which is a pretty sizable, chunky hardcover. Nice, well-designed, thought-out box text. You've got plenty of art throughout here as well. Let's see if I can get to a page with some art on it, though, so I can show you of like a creature of some kind. Here we go. Here's an Imperial Dragon. So we have art and things throughout, as well as useful appendices and things of that nature. It is also available in PDF form. I will have a link in the description. It's a referral link, so anybody who picks it up via the link in the description lets 2C Gaming know how much the Nerd Immersion family follows what I say and supports the channel. So let's go ahead and dive in. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff in here. I think there's over 100 monsters in here, all from challenge rating 10 and above. So there's a lot of content. I'm not going to be able to go through all of it just because we'd be here forever. But let's go ahead and take a look. So if I were to jump over here you can see on the 2C Gaming website, again, this is the link. I'll have it in the description. It's the referral link for you. And then again, you can also get an idea of a couple of previews of what you're kind of getting on if you click these images here. And then again, PDF, hardcover, and print, or you can get both as a bundled 20% discount. So if we were to go ahead and pull it up, it does have bookmarks. No problems there. I do wish we had some sub bookmarks for some of the different animals and things contained within here, but it's not really, doesn't really take away from anything. And then here we'll zoom in a little bit so you guys can get a better look. We have our table of contents. The introduction kind of goes over. We'll touch on a bunch of that stuff there, which is essentially how to use this book and what does it mean to use something like a book called the Total Party Kill Bestiary. Is it Bestiary or Bestiary? I've always said Bestiary. Comment in the description, comment below, Bestiary or Bestiary. How do you pronounce it? Okay. So it says you've been running a game you've hit level 10. Basically, at this point, the party has, even at level 10, access to wild abilities. And it lists some of them here, the opportunity to teleport, banish creatures to other planes of existence, etc. And that can be really world altering in terms of what the party can do. And I feel like, personal opinion, and again, clearly shared by the folks at 2C Gaming, a lot of the stuff that we have, at least in the base monster manual, and I'd say even maybe things have been a little bit improved in Monsters of the Multiverse, but for the most part, they don't stack up to that higher level ability of the players. So you need to step up your game. So we can go ahead and skip ahead to some things here, right? So what's in this book? It says Anatomy of a Monster Group. Monsters within the book are compiled into thematic groups that share background lore, ecology, monster groups. They also have something really cool at the end, which we'll touch on, which is a foil. So it basically is like, this monster is a really good counter to a rogue, or this monster is a really good counter to a barbarian. And that's something that we would never see from Wizards of the Coast, but I do really appreciate it because, and not that you're a vindictive DM or that you want to target your players specifically, but, I'm sure you've encountered this before if you're a DM like I have. You might have, say, a party of 4 players, and depending on the encounter you set up or whatever kind of trivial, encounters, combats, whatever you have set up, some of the players have a difficult time or what they consider or you consider to be a decently challengeable time in combat that seems fun, but perhaps one of the players can just steamroll everything, doesn't take any super high AC, ridiculous saving throws, just crazy magic ability, shuts stuff down. You can't really seem to get them, and it's like they're going to skate through the combat while everybody else is trying to survive, or some mixture of that. So potentially you might say, hey, I want to provide, a challenge to this player, and they're a rogue, let's say. Well, let me look at the rogue foil list and say, hey, let me throw one of these monsters at them, because that might be a good counter to provide them with a challenging combat. Again, not everybody wants to have challenging combats, but I do think a game is more fun, has more gravity to it, and is more memorable when the party is challenged. If you just steamroll over everything, it sounds fun in theory, but I can tell you from personal experience, it's not. All right, keep moving on here. There is these classifications here, right? So these are important because they will come up. So we have artillery. Artillery classification indicates ranged combat specialists with abilities that can harry enemies from afar. One of the best snipers can match an artillery creature at ranged combat, which can often unleash firepower that puts even the most optimized Eldritch Blast at shame. Brutes are melee combatants specialized in giving out much punishment as they take. We have controller may not be the ones to kill a character, but they can certainly make things easier for their allies to do so. Again, these are common and terms I'm sure you're familiar with from other games and things. But basically, you're debuffing your party, the enemy party, to kind of make things easier for your other monsters to kind of mop them up. Elites are monsters with enough diverse strengths to fit in multiple classifications, and leaders are masterful support creatures that aid allies with healing, enhancements, and buffs. So this is sort of your debuff class, and the leader would kind of be your buffing sort of cleric utility character. There's also lurkers, right? Master ambushers and assassins. Lurkers strike fast and hard from stealth. Skirmishers and mobility specialists. They come in, they hit, they move away. Or a soldier, a tactical melee combatant of the highest caliber. A creature with a soldier classification is an implacable barrier that cannot be overcome with brute force. They also mention here that they have titanic creatures. These are things that are substantially larger, right? Truly massive with a unique anatomy that doesn't make sense for it to be treated as a single target. It has multiple sections, again, tail, head, etc., each of which functions like an independent creature, relying on the monster's core statistics for most of its effects. Each section has the same AC resistance immunities, and saving throws. Sections are affected by conditions and other effects individually unless explicitly stated otherwise. In combat, every section has a fixed initiative result that acts on its own. So like the head may go on initiative count 20, the claws on 15, or so on, which I think is a good way to handle creatures that are of just that epic size. It's not, it doesn't make sense that, like, you hit the foot and it hurts that, I don't know. It clicks in my head. And again, in a video gamer mentality where you target something and you defeat like the legs or maybe the arms, and now it can't claw anymore, or the tail, it can't use a tail attack. And here's an important note here, right? With a book of full, deadly, high-level monsters, it's difficult to imagine where there are even more lethal threats. Unfortunately for would-be heroes, a majority of monster groups within this tome have a single member that is marked with a special skull emblem, as you can see here, declaring it a lethal threat. These monsters are certified party killers, guaranteed to deliver the toughest fight possible for their challenge rating. Each branded creature possesses abilities that, when applied by a skilled DM, make for an extraordinarily dangerous combat encounter. Such creatures should never be used lightly, and only if you are absolutely certain your players can handle being wiped out. These creatures do not fight fair. Their abilities are devastating and overwhelming when used correctly, not only to adventurers, but to the world around them. Consider carefully the consequences to both your narrative and gameplay when implementing such a foe. At least we're warned of that kind of stuff up front. And then, yeah, I think we can kind of just skip ahead here, right? It talks there's a nice little stat block here about how, at lower levels, dice rolls are used to sort of balance out the sort of what I think is called bounded accuracy of 5th edition, where even at a higher level, at natural 20, you should still miss like 50% of the time was how it was designed. But they're saying some of these monsters are so powerful, they have like plus 20 to hit. So more often than not, they're going to, with the exception of things like natural ones. And again, just talks a little bit about using and fighting, dealing with characters at high levels. And then we go into the different monsters by challenge rating. And then we have the creature type, plant, dragon, and so on. The classification from what we just talked about. Things like brute, skirmisher, controller. Then we have, are they legendary, titanic, or do they have the TPK brand? And you can see that these guys, no, but as we continue on here, we'll start to see yeses pop up, right? The living galleon, titanic. The ironthorn snipe shrub is TPK branded, right? The utterance of unnaming, TPK branded. The emerald shadow mamba is legendary, and so on. So I thought that we would skip. So there's a ton of options here, and you can see a variety of them. Things like the abominable hybrids, weird mixtures, and things that even has a magic item associated with it. This would be like, your concept of an owl bear, but going a little bit more intense than just mixing an owl with a bear. Animus Arcana are things like animated spells. We do have a couple of different dragons in here. We have oozes. We have a variety of different, different rakshasas. But I wanted to focus on the beasts of legend, because this reminds me of stuff that I liked back in 3.5, and I've always said that I do feel like the beasts that exist in 5e are kind of lacking, especially for folks that are like a moon druid, right? You want to transform into cool things, and you're limited just by what beasts we have. So these are essentially legendary versions of an archetype of animal, right? So it says, nature has magic all its own. By its mysterious will, in the world is shaped into a delicate balance that fosters life. When it is threatened, nature will call upon mighty defenders, great beasts of tremendous power that far surpasses their normal brethren. These beasts of legend are paragons of their kind, gifted with dramatically enhanced size and strength. Again, we can scroll down. It has Beast of Legend template. It says every beast has the potential to become a Beast of Legend, obtained by acquiring the Beast of Legend template detailed below, which is something else that I enjoy because it is a template that you can apply to any beast from any book that you have, whether that be something first party from Wizards of the Coast, something from 2C Gaming, or even another third party publisher. You can use these templates and apply them to those creatures. And again, they do have, I think, 3 or 4 examples here of certain creatures that are like giving you an example, but you can build your own, right? So, and it has a little bit of lore information for all of these things, which I also appreciate, something that was missing that we used to have that we no longer have, right? A character can learn the following information about a beast of legend with an intelligence nature or wisdom survival check. And it shows you what the different levels here of what kind of info you can gather on said creature. And then again, here are some of the tactics, right? How do these beasts operate? Again, something that I have stated many a time that I miss from, again, I speak to 3.5 a lot because it's what I knew, but we don't really have stuff like this in 5e where it tells you how the monster sort of might operate. Now, I know 5e is very much a hands-off on the DM, let them do whatever they want and figure it all out, but sometimes people want to have things like this where it gives you tactics, like how does this monster operate in combat, right? It starts off doing this, then when it gets threatened, it might do this, right? It says beasts are generally simple creatures when it comes to matters of strategy. It says tigers and other stealthy creatures will play more like lurkers, while a dire wolf of legend will likely be the leader of a massive pack. Traits such as awesome blow, devastator, and thick hide favor brute beasts of legend and are great options for beasts like bears or other large creatures. And so on, right? Easier tactics have the Beast of Legend be easy to find and not inherently aggressive towards the PCs. This will give them time to strategically approach the situation, potentially even charming it or using animal handling to gain an edge. Or for harder tactics, that was the easier tactic option. For harder, play up the Beast's intuitive cunning, particularly if it's proficient in insight. The Beast should be elusive and cautious, attacking anyone whose motives are not explicitly non-hostile. Then we have a handful of different plot hooks of how we can incorporate something like this into our game. And then again, here is again there's some art here on the Beast of Legend. And if we scroll down, we can see there is a new spell here. Champion of the Wild. It's a 9th level spell. It's for druids. After spending the casting time learning and conversing with nature, the target becomes a Beast of Legend, gaining the Beast of Legend template. This lasts for 24 hours, non-concentration. And then it says, okay, Beast of Legends template, right? You can create a Beast of Legend by taking the following statistics. Unusual size. The beast's size category increases by 1 and adjusts its hit dice accordingly. If the beast is already gargantuan, the dimensions of the space it occupies increases by 10 feet in all directions. Hit dice. It gains 10 additional hit dice and recalculates its maximum HP. It gains 16 ability score points, saving throw proficiency in 2 saving throws, proficiency in at least 3 skills from the following options: athletics, acrobatics, stealth, insight, perception, or survival. 3 legendary resistances per day. Heavy hitter deals an extra 3 damage dice on its damage rolls. And then it says challenge rating increases by 9. And then it says expanded traits. It gains 3 traits chosen from the table we just saw above. And then it also gets 3 legendary actions, right? Brace, ferocity, and keen sight. Brace is basically uncanny dodge, taking half damage. Ferocity is it moves up to its speed and jumps distance a half its speed, then makes a single attack. And then keen sight, it makes a perception check, and each creature the beast detects has disadvantage on the next attack roll against the beast. We can see the traits are listed here. There's a variety of them. We mentioned thick hide earlier, right? Give it a +5 AC and resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magic. Awesome blows is when it scores a hit with a natural weapon against a creature that is the same size or smaller, and may push them 30 feet away. We also have things like Devastator has advantage on attack rolls and ability checks against creatures smaller than it. Additionally, once on each of its turns, it can spend half its movement to deal 20 bludgeoning damage to an object or structure. You get the point. So there are a couple. Let's see what options we have here. We have the T-Rex of Legend, the Giant Elk of Legend, and I think the Tiger of Legend, and that's it. So we only have the 3 here. The Tiger is a challenge rating 10. The Giant Elk is a challenge rating 11. And our T-Rex of Legend is a challenge rating 17. I think it's going to be coolest to just look at the T-Rex, so let's do that. All right, it is a gargantuan beast, armor class of 13, 379 hit points. Its stats are just bananas. Saving throws, constitution, and wisdom. Skills are athletic, insight, and perception. 3 legendary resistances per day. It has the Devastator ability we were just talking about, and then also frenzied attacks. As a bonus action on each of its turn, it can make a single weapon attack. It has multi-attack, one with its bite, one with its tail. It can't make both attacks against the same target. Its bite has a 10-foot reach, a +16 to hit, and does 7d12 plus 10 piercing. If they're medium or smaller, they're grappled with a DC 26 to escape. And then while grappled, they are restrained and it can't bite another target. Crushing Grip. If it scores a hit with its bite against a creature it is grappling, it instead scores a critical hit. That is, again, the Crushing Grip ability if it's already got somebody in its mouth. And then its tail attack does, again, +10, 10-foot reach, 66 plus 10 bludgeoning damage. Can take 3 legendary actions, again, for the things we already saw, Brace, Ferocity, and Keen Sight. Similar things for the Giant Elk and the Tiger of Legend. I realize that most of these will not be things that a druid could turn into, but depending on how you want to play around with this, you could always adjust up or down. But it is nice to see these kind of templates. I've said this before, a book of templates would be something that I would just buy because every monster that you've ever had from any source, whether again that's something you've homebrewed yourself, something you got from an official WotC book, or from a variety of folks out on the DM's Guild or other third-party creators, templates go a long way, because if you had to say a grand total of 1,000 monsters from all your sources and you had a book with 50 templates, you just increased that number of monsters 50 times because you could apply that template to everything. And that's awesome. And that's why I would love to have just more templates, which is why this resonated so much with me. Again, we can scroll down here. We can take a look. We see we have a variety of different options, but I did want to jump ahead to the appendix, where it talks about finding the perfect monster, right? So in this section, you'll see them sorted by classification, right? This is, again, artillery, brute, and so on, favors, and foils. So if we were to scroll ahead to the next section, we have favors, monsters that favor, and you can see here, I think it even mentioned it earlier on. It says, whereas favors and foils are both ordered alphabetically by their keywords. I do want to jump back to the start because I want to make sure I don't mess up what favors and foils are, because it has it listed right here. So let's read that before we jump ahead. An understanding of a creature's strengths and weaknesses is essential to a successful encounter, along with the monster's classification will be... Next page. A short list. Favors, which characters... let's see. Some monsters favor no features, meaning there are no optional paths to succeed against it. Favors, which character features, classes, and abilities perform well against that monster. And then again, this is what I thought, I just wanted to check. Foils, which character features, classes, and abilities perform poorly against this monster. So again, to my point from earlier, if you have a particular character that you're looking to challenge a little more because things have been too easy, or whatever the case may be. You can look to foil them with a specific monster. Or if you want to give somebody else a time to shine, right? Perhaps your cleric never gets to really have a moment to shine because they're too busy healing everybody else. Well, then you can come to the favors list and say, okay, well, look at all these things that favor a cleric, right? If I throw a Dracopede at the party, that favors the cleric, so the cleric will have cool abilities to be able to deal with things. Now, who knows, right? The Dracopede may have a poison ability, and then it might rely on the cleric to shine in the fact of them healing, so perhaps my example was poor, but you're going to see it's not just class related, right? We have favors anti-magic, favors area of effect, favors protection from acid, high charisma, protection from charmed, magical weapons. So you can choose a variety of different options here. High constitution, high physical damage, protection from fear, high dexterity, protection from disease, high hit points, high initiative rolling, high mobility. So a lot of really cool things here is to say like, okay, and I'm glad that it's not just class specific, because you may have multiple people of the same class in your party and they may run things very differently, so that may not be the case. But you also might have things like this. Okay, well, I have one guy that has a ton of radiant damage. Again, probably a paladin. Or let me throw an Eternal Lich at him. That'll be a good way to kind of give him an opportunity to shine. Then in the opposite direction, we again have monsters that foil, which would say, okay, this monster here foils the Lightning Archon, foils monster or player characters with a high AC, right? It shuts those down. Or right here, the Fel Merdona foils characters with a low charisma, right? Maybe there's a lot of charisma saving throws. So I really appreciate everything here. I really like a lot of what I'm seeing from the Total Party Kill Bestiary Volume 1. There is also a Volume 2, which we will be covering in a future video. But let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Again, there will be a pinned comment at the top of the a section at the top of the video description, as well as a pinned comment for you to go to the referral link there. And I will see you all next time.